A man looked at the skies and commented how the enemy was being serious, seeing dragons flying around. He couldn't believe they had sent so many powerful dragons just to fight one person. Then he understood. This was what they meant by using sheer force of numbers. He felt like he should welcome them, so he decided to face them head-on. With a snap of his fingers, a giant golem appeared. He called it the Barrage Steel Golem Orchestrion. He told the golem it was time to start moving. Now here's a bit of history from 15 years earlier. A woman known for her stunning looks took the title of Demon King. Her strong desire to control everything led to the fall of many great nations. She had a special power called the Grand Authority of Charm. It allowed her to control any man, and it even worked on other races too. Even after she died, her power didn't stop affecting people. If I am charmed by those two melons, I am also not going to stop believing. The Demon King's slayers had returned under her control, now serving her as loyal followers. Her power was so strong that the world had to change. Rules were relaxed, and many special exceptions were made to fight back. But now that the Demon King was finally defeated, only those exceptions remained. People were left wondering how to deal with rules that no longer fit. History had already shown how such things usually ended. In the palace hall of the Diamante Kingdom, a loud and heavy man shouted at the group standing before him. He told them they were all fired from their jobs. He said the royal palace should only be run by nobles chosen by other nobles. He also said the World Council had once banned discrimination against commoners, but that didn't matter anymore since the Demon King was gone. According to him, commoners no longer had the right to work in the palace. One man calmly raised his hand and asked what they should do about handing over their work. The nobleman looked shocked, then got angry that someone would question him. He reminded them he was the head of a powerful noble family. The man said they were fine with leaving, but it was risky to go without properly handing things over. The Duke raised his hand and told him to stop. He said he didn't care about such small matters. He added that commoners should figure those things out themselves and that it wasn't a noble's job to teach them. The man then understood that no handover would happen. The Duke simply laughed and told them to pack their things and leave. He said no one would check their bags since the World Council didn't allow checking personal items. The man accepted this, agreed to leave, and politely thanked the Duke before bowing. The Duke didn't respond and walked away, saying he had more important things to do. The man waited until the Duke left, then let out a deep sigh. He couldn't believe some people thought they could fix everything just by giving out careless orders. They didn't even understand how important it was to hand things over properly. He snapped his fingers, and the people standing with him suddenly turned into smoke. Everyone in the hall vanished, leaving only their clothes behind. The man took something out from under his shirt and activated it. It was an item box. Like a black hole, it sucked up all the clothes from the floor in just a few seconds. The hall was now completely empty, with only the man left standing. He didn't worry about it anymore. The tests for the Golem operation were already finished. He couldn't use the antenna now that his special permission to use royal items was gone. Still, even though the control range was only 3 meters, he felt good about choosing to make the system faster instead of keeping the longer range. He took out his ID card and tore it into pieces. If problems came later, he would deal with them then. For now, his next goal was to find the best materials he could to build a new golem. At the same time, the Duke sat beside the king while some women served them. King Barziel asked Duke Zayit why he looked so happy. Zayit said he had just taken care of some problems earlier, so he felt better now. Barziel mentioned that the World Council had called them to meet the hero, and he was glad Zayit was in a good mood since people might notice if they looked upset. A soldier then came in and said the teleportation circle was ready. The king and the Duke stepped into it and were teleported. Barziel felt sick and said he still wasn't used to teleporting. Zayit joked that the king should be used to it by now. He quietly said the teleportation system would belong to them in the future. Barziel simply nodded. After their secret talk, they walked into a large hall. People from many different places and kingdoms were already there. A host thanked everyone for waiting and introduced the hero. A girl with slim legs walked forward. People began whispering to each other as she walked to the center of the room. Then the hero gave them a strong glare. The room went silent. Even King Barziel felt the heavy pressure coming from her. Meanwhile, in Calcite Village, the main character had just finished eating lunch. He thought he could finally do whatever he wanted now that he had been fired, but he still needed at least 10 more years to finish his research, and time was running out. He quietly cursed to himself. He wondered if he should try his luck at the rare stone market near the Grand Ore Vein. He let out a sigh. At that moment, someone stopped nearby with a carriage and asked what he was daydreaming about while sitting in such a quiet place. A man greeted him casually and said he was willing to listen if there was something bothering him. The main character shared how he had finally left a job where he was being treated unfairly, but now, he was worried about the time he had left to finish his goals. He also said that his luck didn't seem to be helping. He apologized for talking too much. The man said he was glad the main character understood his situation. He also mentioned that the Dragonstone Kingdom wasn't such a shady place and suggested going to the treasure capital, Lapis, instead. The main character replied that he actually had some business to take care of in Lapis. The man then said he was heading there too. The main character gave him a quick look and guessed that he might be a merchant. The man said he was and explained that Lapis had all kinds of metals and even traded rare ones from the Grand Ore vein. The main character understood why the merchant was going there, but he also pointed out that the cart's axle looked worn out. The man smiled and said the main character had sharp eyes. The main character then said he had worked on the kind of technology used in carts. The merchant was surprised and didn't say anything for a moment. The two kept talking as they walked to another place. The merchant asked if the main character had any way to travel since Lapis was far away. The main character said he planned to hitch rides on shared carriages. The merchant then offered to give him a ride. The main character thanked him and introduced himself as Horace. The merchant said his name was Genji. Just as they were about to shake hands, a loud noise echoed through the town. Genji wondered what it was, but before he could say more, Horace ran off. Outside the town, Horace saw a dragon with shiny purple scales. He noticed chains around its neck and thought it was strange for a dragon to attack a town for no reason. Then a man showed up saying he was the heir of a noble family from the Diamante Kingdom and that he would defeat the dragon. Horace didn't think the man could actually do it. When he looked closer, Horace saw some mages below the dragon using special stones to hold it down. He quickly figured out that they were up to something. Meanwhile, a nearby house was already on fire. A woman was trying to run back inside to save her daughter, but no one else could help her. At that moment, Horace didn't wait. He ran straight toward the burning house. Some villagers told him not to risk his life, but he didn't listen. He kicked away the burning wood blocking the entrance. Then he shouted that he was there to help and asked if anyone inside could hear him. There was no answer, so Horace decided to search the house. He went up to the second floor and saw a child trapped in the fire. The girl was badly burned, but still alive. Horace believed he had arrived just in time. He quickly pulled out a bottle from his item box. He opened it and poured the liquid into the girl's mouth. Right away, her burns disappeared and her skin looked healthy again. Just as Horace felt relief, the ground suddenly shook. The roof broke apart and collapsed. The tremor was caused by a nobleman outside pretending to be a hero while fighting a dragon. The villagers saw the house's roof fall and feared the worst. Luckily, Horace was okay. He came out of the broken house carrying the girl in his arms. A piece of cloth he held grew longer and he used it to wrap the girl. Before leaving, he noticed a teddy bear lying nearby. He picked it up and somehow it fixed itself right away. Horace stepped out of the burning house and Genji asked if he was all right. Horace said the girl was safe. Genji didn't say much. He was amazed that Horace had saved the girl without a scratch. Then the girl's mother arrived. Horace told her the girl had just passed out from breathing too much smoke, but she would wake up soon after resting. The mother thanked him for saving her daughter. Genji looked at Horace and felt it was better not to ask anything more. Horace asked what had happened with the farce outside. Genji explained that the mages had brought the dragon down to the ground, and the nobleman kept slashing at it. But Genji didn't think the nobleman was actually hurting the dragon. The man just shouted a lot, acting like he was the best swordsman ever. Genji then asked what Horace thought about it. Horace said he had a bad feeling. Genji agreed. Right then, the dragon reached its limit and let out a loud roar. It suddenly stood up and broke its chains. The nobleman stood there, shocked. The dragon spun around and smacked him with its tail, sending him sliding across the ground. Horace called the nobleman a disgrace, but Genji said the moment felt kind of satisfying. Even though Horace wasn't feeling great, he still stepped in. The dragon was about to shoot fire at the mages, but Horace stopped it with a punch. Then he looked at the stone the mages were using. After knocking the dragon down again, Horace told it he had nothing personal against it, but if people used it again, that would be a problem. The dragon opened its mouth wide, trying to eat him. At that moment, Horace pulled a sword out of his item box and slashed the dragon. It exploded, and items like gold coins flew out. Horace picked up a gold bar and said it should be enough to cover things up. Later, while they were traveling, Genji asked Horace if he was really okay leaving all those gold coins behind. Horace said he was fine because he had already taken some gold bars. He explained that carrying too much gold would only cause problems for someone like him. Genji told him he was kind and asked him not to downplay what he did. Genji believed Horace left the gold coins behind so the villagers could use them to rebuild their burned-down houses. From what he saw inside the house, Genji was sure the woman who lived there wasn't alone. He thought she had a partner. He just felt sad that their whole house was destroyed. Genji agreed it was a terrible thing, but reminded Horace that they wouldn't take any side trips. Horace said he didn't mind. Meanwhile, the World Council spoke with a hero named Langa, the leader of the hero community known as the Ruster Report. The kings decided to reward her with anything she wanted for helping save the world. Langa said she only had one request. She spoke about Horace, the man who had trained her and the other 5 top members of the Ruster Report. and how he helped them defeat the Demon Lord. She asked for him to be allowed to marry women from different countries. At that time, Horace didn't even know that several women were planning to marry him. Jealous, aren't you, dear viewer? Everyone in the hall was shocked. King Barziel asked who Horace was. Langa said Horace was a commoner but also the strongest golem master in the world. She explained that according to the last letter she got from him, he had been working at the royal castle of the Diamante Kingdom, but he was later fired. When Duke Zait heard this, he quietly panicked. He remembered that he had recently fired all commoners from the castle, and now realized Horace was likely one of them. Langa and King Barziel both stared at him, clearly upset that he had fired the hero's teacher. Zait tried to defend himself, saying he didn't know. Langa went on. She said Horace was usually very secretive but had mentioned this in his final letter. Zait looked nervously at King Barziel. Then Langa brought up a recent rule made by the World Council. Because of the Demon King's growing power, the council told nations to start giving important jobs to commoners. Many countries agreed, thinking that by including commoners, their countries would grow stronger and be able to fight back against the Demon King. But she heard that the Diamante Kingdom had not followed that idea. Barziel and Zait didn't respond. Langa then talked about where her master might be going. She said the polygamy privilege wasn't needed anymore, but they would still need civil rights to enter that place. She believed the king of that land was very sick and couldn't attend the World Council. She walked towards someone and asked if they had come as the king's representative. Princess Lucia of the Dragonstone Kingdom didn't know how to respond. Langa asked her to give citizenship to her master and to all members of the Ruster Report. She said they needed it so they could use the rare stone market, which was under the control of the Dragonstone Kingdom. She explained that the rare stone market was found in the treasure capital of Lapis, and this was what she wanted as a reward for helping defeat the Demon King. King Barziel was too shocked to say anything, but in his mind he knew he couldn't let this happen. The hero group Ruster Report had defeated the Demon King all by themselves, even though they were just commoners. Their power was incredible. On top of that, they all looked impressive. There was no way he could let another country take them, especially a kingdom led by a king who was about to die. Then Langa raised her voice and told him not to act so proud. Everyone was confused, and Barziel asked what she meant. She clearly stated what she wanted and asked if he still didn't get it. Panicking, Barziel guessed that the real reason they wanted to move was to get access to rare minerals. For the sake of the Golem Master, Horace, he proudly said that the Diamante Kingdom was the greatest nation of all. With their strong trade system, Horace could get rare minerals not just from the Dragonstone Kingdom, but from many other places too. Barziel offered Horace special rights to the minerals and begged Langa to think about her choice and reward. But Langa told him that the greatest title meant nothing. She pointed out that the only reason so many people had gathered in Diamante was because they were escaping the Demon King's attack. And the reason the kingdom could support so many people was because of her master's powers as a golem master. Her master had created staff golems, robots that could do 10 times more work than a regular person. Even more amazing, he could control over 500 of them at once. Barziel started to sweat and said that kind of power wasn't possible. But Langa simply said that's how strong her master was. And yet, the kingdom still chose to fire all those staff workers. Then she said that the Diamante Kingdom was about to have money problems. She thought it would be better if her master didn't stay there. Barziel asked what she meant. Langa explained that these special rules used by many countries were starting to lose their power now that the Demon King had been defeated. One of these rules was about money and loans. Since the world had been in a state of emergency during the Demon King's invasion, moneylenders were forced to allow longer times to pay back loans or had to lower their interest rates. Some of them were even made to give money to help support their countries. Barziel didn't know what to say. Langa then asked if he planned to fix everything with force. She found it strange that Barziel hadn't heard anything from the moneylenders in his kingdom. That was because her hero community had already gathered most of the repayment money in gold coins and bought the debt bonds themselves. Barziel was shocked. Langa went on to say that the hero community was also running money-lending businesses. She then asked if Barziel even knew that the country with the most debt was the Diamante Kingdom. Barziel couldn't believe it. Langa pointed out that Zaite, the head of the Lugasak ducal house, had the biggest debt of all. Even if he sold his royal estate, it wouldn't be enough to pay it back. Zait was so shocked that he fell out of his seat. Langa also said that the repayments were being made in small parts over time and with very low interest. The plan was to let the Diamante Kingdom pay the debt back slowly, but among all the countries, only the Dragonstone Kingdom was actually paying what they owed. This was the first time Barziel had heard about it. Langa explained that her sword, the Dragon Silver Sword Tail Agartha, which she used to defeat the Demon King, was made in the Dragonstone Kingdom. She then asked Barziel which country he would support in a situation like this, the one drowning in debt or the one paying it off. Langa turned her attention back to Princess Lucia and asked again if the hero community, along with Horace, could be granted citizenship in Dragonstone. Lucia now fully understood what Langa wanted and she quickly agreed to the request. Langa thanked her and told her team it was time to get ready to leave. As they walked away, Langa noticed that Lucia looked worried about being left behind. Sensing this, Langa gave a serious warning to everyone in the hall. If anything happened to Lucia, they already knew what would follow. No one said a word in response. Later in Lapis, the capital of the Dragonstone Kingdom, Langa sat inside a shop. She kept sighing, clearly worried. Then she noticed someone entering the line. It was Horace, and he noticed her too. Without hesitating, Langa ran up and hugged him. Horace was surprised and told her she was acting very different than usual. Langa felt happy to see him again and said he was important to her. When Horace said he needed to finish some paperwork, Langa told him not to bother. She had already gotten citizenship for him. Horace was surprised by how quickly she handled it. Then Langa grabbed his arm and pulled him away. When Horace asked where they were going, she told him they were heading to a mansion she had secured through the Ruster report. She wanted them to live there together. Horace told her not to say things like that in public, but he had no choice as she pulled him along. When they reached the mansion, Horace was shocked by how big it was. Suddenly, someone stepped out of the mansion and welcomed them. Horace said it had been a long time. The maid Tyrus agreed and said she had been waiting for the day they could all live together. Horace simply agreed. Tyrus smiled and offered to show him around. As they walked through the mansion, Horace noticed that no one else seemed to be there. Tyrus explained that for now it was just her and Langa. She said the cleaning was done, but they were still working on organizing everything. She also showed Horace a special room they had made just for him to build golems. Horace was surprised by how much effort the girls had put into it. Tyrus told him she hadn't done anything to repay him yet, so this was the least she could do. Horace was amazed by all the rare metals in the room. He didn't expect Dragonstone to have so much. Langa was happy that their master could now focus on his research. Horace remembered that it usually took at least 4 years to gain citizenship or national status, but now that everything was ready, he could start working on many things early. He thanked the girls for their hard work and gave them head pats. The girls, who had just helped save the world, smiled happily. Head pats were enough. Still, when Horace saw all the rare metals in the room, he asked how much it all cost. Langa said it was just pocket change. Horace somehow understood what she meant and chose not to ask more questions. Instead, he focused on the metals in front of him. Outside the mansion, a girl walked up to the gates. She said she had come to see for herself the true strength of the hero's master. This girl, Frederica, was a court alchemist from the Dragonstone Kingdom. She had been walking for a long time from the gate and complained to herself about how big the hero's mansion was. She slapped her cheeks to help herself focus, reminding herself of her important role in the kingdom. She wasn't there on her own. It was an official mission from Princess Lucia. In her mind, the one who should be nervous was the hero's mentor, not her. Earlier, Frederica had asked Lucia what her mission was. Lucia said it was an investigation. Frederica wondered why she was chosen for it. Lucia reminded her that the kingdom had agreed to accept the heroes group, called the Heroes Community, and had even given them citizenship. But that didn't mean they were fully trusted yet. The kingdom still needed to check them properly. Frederica asked if she had to investigate every member. Lucia said no, checking the person who trained the hero would be enough. That person was Horace. When Frederica asked why he was important, Lucia explained that since Horace was the hero's teacher, he likely had great skill. She also mentioned that Horace was known as a Golem master, and wanted someone like Frederica, an alchemist, to evaluate him. Even the hero respected him, so Horace might be someone with strong abilities and good character. After hearing that, Frederica became curious. She wanted to find out if Horace was truly talented or just pretending. Now, in the present, Frederica asked Horace to come with her to the palace's underground area. She said she wanted to see his skills in the magic power room located there. Horace asked if this was an official request from the government, and Frederica said yes. To her surprise, Horace agreed right away. Another person, Langa, asked if she could come too, and Frederica said that was fine. She felt happy that everything was going smoothly. On the way, Horace started thinking about whether there was anything hidden under the palace. He guessed there might be, but not many things came to mind. Langa asked what he meant. Horace said it was probably the power source for the mana pipes. Since Langa didn't understand, Horace explained. He talked about the tools they had at home, like how flipping a switch could turn on lights or fire. He guessed that these tools were powered by mana from somewhere else. Langa was able to understand that much. Horace went on to say that putting a monster coin into the main part of the tool turned it into energy. That energy made daily life easier. Langa now realized that Frederica was the one managing all of this, and the alchemist agreed. Frederica also said she wanted to see how skilled Horace really was. She had heard he was a golem master and should know how magical tools worked. She believed that explaining things was just the first step. She promised herself that she wouldn't be fooled by him. Her serious look just left Horace puzzled. She said she would judge him for the sake of Princess Lucia. Horace laughed, and Frederica asked what was so funny. He said he just thought her words sounded like something a young person would say. Frederica got annoyed and told him she'd give him a tour, but if he messed up, she wouldn't forgive him. Horace simply agreed to follow her lead. Soon after, they arrived at the magic power supply room. In the middle of the room was a large machine, which was the main power unit. Frederica wanted Horace to make it work. Horace explained that he had set up a similar machine before back in the Diamante Kingdom. He asked if there was only one unit. Frederica told him not to compare their place to a big kingdom like that. Then Horace noticed that the magic supply had stopped. Frederica said that was obvious and was surprised he didn't realize it earlier when they were at the mansion. Langa explained that they had made many changes to the hero's mansion. Even if the main supply was cut off, the magic still flowed through other ways. Frederica was shocked and asked if they were serious. While Horace worked on the main unit, he mentioned that Terrace had done some maintenance on the teleportation hub used by the Ruster report. Langa said that was true. Frederica didn't know what to say. Even if it was possible, she couldn't believe a maid had the skill to power an entire mansion. It was hard for her to believe. Frederica started to think that maybe the disciple was just really talented. Or maybe it was one of those cases where people brag about their students, and that makes the teacher look amazing too. Either way, she was about to find out if Horace was really skilled, or just a fake. At that moment, Horace pulled out some rods from the main machine. He said it was the main core and pointed out that it was made up of many small pieces packed together. Langa asked what a core even was. Horace explained that in magical tools, the core was made from special iron that let magic flow more easily. Frederica then grabbed a bottle of glowing powder they could use to test it, but she warned that if they used appraisal magic, it might give the wrong results, so she didn't really recommend it. However, Horace wasn't listening. Instead, he blew hard on the rods to clean them. When Frederica asked if he heard her, he said the rods were just dirty and he couldn't help but blow the dust off. Frederica told him he should be fixing it instead. Then she focused her magic power on the core. Langa watched with interest as the black part on the rods started to disappear, but it came back quickly. Langa guessed that the goal was to turn the rods white. Frederica corrected him and said the rods were originally gray. She explained that if the rods turned black, it was almost impossible to fix them. What she was trying to do was bring them back to gray. Horace sighed, and Frederica, now annoyed, asked why he was just standing there doing nothing. She told him to try fixing it himself, but Horace refused and told her to try again instead. Frederica got even more annoyed and asked why he was giving orders when she was the one who hired him. Horace teased her and told her to keep going, and even Langa joined in. Frederica gave up and tried again, thinking they were underestimating her. Just then, Horace gently tapped her hand. Suddenly, Frederica's magic power went wild and rushed into the core. She closed her eyes because of the sudden light and the surprise, but when she opened them, she was shocked to see the core turning white. Horace and Langa laughed at her reaction. Frederica couldn't believe what she was seeing. The part where Horace had touched turned even whiter than the area she had fixed. She angrily asked how he did it, but Horace didn't answer and simply cleaned another core with one swipe of his hand. Frederica said she had never seen a core whiter like that before and again asked how he did it. Horace told her to try again and said he'd guide her through it. Frederica was surprised but got excited. Langa felt nostalgic watching her teacher pass on what he knew to someone else. Horace explained that Frederica first needed to understand something important. Magic always tried to stay balanced. He said it wasn't about forcing magic to become something. Instead, magic naturally took the shape it wanted. He told her to picture what she wanted it to become, not just imagine the core turning white. She had to command it to turn white. Frederica focused hard. She told the core to become white and sent her magic power into it. Langa then noticed that it turned even whiter than before. Frederica couldn't believe what had just happened. Her knees gave out and she dropped to the floor. Horace told her she did well for her first try. Frederica, still in shock, replied that she would sue him. Seeing her cry, Langa said she understood how jealousy felt and pointed out how amazing Horace was. Frederica asked if they had any idea how many years it had taken her just to change the core's color from black to gray. Horace guessed it might have taken 5 years, judging from what he saw. Angry, Frederica asked how Horace even figured that out. Langa proudly said that this was the true power of the hero's master. Horace said that maybe it was just how things were, but if it was about living up to Frederica's expectations, that would be another story. Frederica knew he was teasing her and swore to learn all of his secrets. She said she would stare at him so hard she'd burn holes through him. She was determined to steal his techniques. Horace liked how ambitious she was. Frederica, on the other hand, couldn't stand how smug he looked. That night, Lucia checked on Frederica's progress. When she entered the alchemist's room, she saw Frederica fast asleep. She was even snoring, which was not normal for her. Lucia became worried and wondered if something happened. Another alchemist nearby explained that Frederica had rushed off to prepare something as soon as she returned, without saying much. Lucia then noticed several items scattered on Frederica's table. The other alchemist talked about how Frederica usually seemed like she had already mastered everything. She rarely showed much effort, but this time she had worked hard and made a lot of progress. One alchemist said it was surprising how quickly Frederica got so good at it. They mentioned that the hero's master had recently appeared, and they guessed that person might have inspired Frederica with something amazing. Lucia felt both surprised and happy when she heard that. Then one of the alchemists said it was time to return to their task. They had to continue working on the power section and quickly left, apologizing for leaving so suddenly. Lucia didn't mind and thanked them for their effort. After they left, Lucia looked again at the sleeping Frederica. She thought this was the most peaceful sleep she had seen from her in years. It made her believe that Frederica really had seen or learned something incredible. Suddenly, Frederica started talking in her sleep, saying something about beating Horace at something. Lucia smiled, glad that someone like Horace could have such a good effect on Frederica. Meanwhile, the alchemists who had just left were shocked when they saw that the cores of the main unit had turned white. A few days later, Lucia was amazed to see a carriage with a blue flag moving quickly without the horses getting tired. Frederica remembered that the wagon was built using Horace's bearing. A soldier confirmed this and added that they even increased the load by 30%. He said this improvement would greatly lower the cost of transporting metals from the Lapis Royal dungeon. Frederica thought there should be a limit to how much something like a wagon axle bearing could be improved. She praised Horace for making it possible. Horace gave her a quick glance and said that improving transportation meant helping the whole country. He explained that if they didn't push the limits, nothing would change. He told them how they had to move large amounts of supplies back in the Diamante Kingdom just to keep things running. Lucia said that even though Horace was good at paperwork, there was no way he could move that much alone. Frederica asked what she meant by paperwork. Horace was surprised that Lucia knew so much. Lucia explained that she had heard about it from Langa at the World Council. She mentioned that the Diamante Kingdom used hundreds of golems for operations in the palace, around 500 of them. Frederica was shocked by the number. Horace confirmed that even though the kingdom had many people, most of them were refugees and the skilled workers were rare. They provided high-quality farming tools, but they also needed to develop better wagons to transport the food produced by those tools. Horace fell silent, shaking as he remembered those difficult times. Frederica called him crazy for managing to do it all by himself. Just then, Lucia noticed that the carriage with the blue flag was falling behind the one with the red flag, even though it was supposed to be faster. Frederica jokingly asked if Horace had messed something up. Horace explained that he had installed new axle bearings that reduced friction. Because of that, the carriage faced less resistance. Even though the carriage was heavier, the horses should have felt like it was lighter. He pointed out that the horses looked confused and Frederica agreed. He guessed they just needed time to get used to the change. He told the soldiers to ride the horses more often so they could adjust, and the soldiers agreed right away. Lucia then said the surprising part was that it only took Horace an hour to make those bearings. When Frederica looked at the blueprints, she admitted she couldn't understand them and asked how Horace could come up with such ideas. Horace said he just studied a lot. He explained that a golem master used a mix of earth magic, magic toolmaking, and alchemy. Frederica said that mastering even one of those was already hard. Lucia asked how Horace could handle learning so much. Horace said he simply read a lot of books, even ones that weren't directly related to his field, because they might be helpful later. Frederica called that a waste of time. Horace then explained that the Golem Masterclass was created by someone who had the idea to combine 3 different fields. He said that if someone knew that from the start, they wouldn't struggle as much. He also said that new technologies were often made by putting together small pieces of knowledge. That's why collecting those pieces every day was important. Frederica agreed with that part. Horace added that saying it was a waste of time showed a lack of planning. Somehow that comment hit Frederica. Lucia teased Frederica by reminding her how she always ended up stuffing the fridge full after going shopping. Frederica quickly said that's not what she meant. Horace was surprised that Frederica didn't hold back her temper even in front of a princess. Lucia told Horace to be himself and not act differently just because of her title. Horace asked if that was really okay since he might not hold back. Still, something felt off to him. Frederica then said their country didn't really care much about social class differences. When she studied abroad to learn new techniques, she was shocked by the cultural differences. Horace asked her to give an example. She said the biggest shock was how schools in other countries separated nobles and commoners. But in Dragonstone, everyone was placed in the same class, no matter their grades or status. Horace thought that was rare. Frederica said that showed how different their way of thinking was. She explained that nobles in Dragonstone were at least aware of the struggles of poorer people, even if just in theory, but she also knew that wasn't true in other countries. Horace suddenly thought of someone named Zait who didn't care about commoners at all. Frederica said this kind of thinking came from nobles growing up only around people like themselves. For example, they might always eat fancy meals, but sitting next to a poor student at lunch could help them realize that not everyone had that. Some kids lived on simple school meals every day. Horace agreed that it made sense. He realized that in Dragonstone, the culture made people see each other more equally. Suddenly, Frederica wanted to speak, but she couldn't find the right words. Horace noticed and asked if something was wrong. Frederica said that Horace was using very old techniques. Horace admitted that it was true. He told them about someone he admired, a man who was both an adventurer and a golem master. Then Horace pulled something out from his vest. It was an autobiography written by that man 100 years ago. The girls were surprised at how well the book had been kept. Lucia guessed it was an adventurer's book. It told the story of the man's journey and explained the inventions he made as a golem master. Frederica seemed surprised that Horace looked up to someone. She tried to grab the book, but Horace didn't let her. Frederica called him stingy, but Lucia scolded her because the book could get damaged if handled carelessly. They also said Frederica had a habit of being clumsy. Then Horace explained why he couldn't let them read the book. It had hidden codes written throughout it. The girls asked what those codes were. Horace said they were messages that needed to be decoded. One message said that the world had been taken over 2,000 years ago by a group of 5 people. The girls were confused and asked what he meant. Horace said that only a golem master had the power to stop those 5. Lucia looked impressed, but Frederica reacted differently. She finally understood why Horace had trained so hard in those old golem master skills. Horace said he had already given them enough hints to figure it out. Frederica pointed out that those 5 people should be long gone by now. But Horace said they had lived a very long time. Frederica said that wasn't normal at all. Then Horace quickly got up to leave. Frederica was surprised at how fast he moved. Before leaving, Horace gave her some advice. He told her that if she wanted to grow stronger, she should find someone to admire. He said the world was full of people who had tried many different things, and she should look around and choose for herself. He also said that magic could go in many directions, and in the end, it was her choice. Frederica confidently said she understood. She also said in an annoyed tone that she would take a look if she had time. Then she told Lucia to let her know if the axle bearings had a problem, she would check it herself. Horace smiled and said that Frederica was noisy. At the entrance of the Grand Orvane's dungeon, located in the capital of the Dragonstone Kingdom, monsters dropped metal items when defeated. Because of this, many adventurers gathered outside the dungeon. One of them was Giador from the Diamante Kingdom, a noble from House Emod. He thought the crowd was getting more annoying. One of his teammates mentioned that some people might be after his holy sword. Giador carried a special sword called Guardmite. His team joked around and asked to see it. Giador enjoyed the attention and asked if they really wanted to get a look. He said it wasn't every day people got to see a holy sword. Before he could continue, other adventurers got excited and started talking about Langa, who had just entered the dungeon. They said this could be her biggest treasure hunt yet since she was a hero. Hearing this, Giador became irritated. He grabbed one of the adventurers by the neck and complained that people kept talking about a commoner like her. He said gossip like that didn't matter compared to someone noble like him. Angry, he asked where Langa had gone. The adventurers quickly gave him an answer to calm him down. Then Giador slammed the person he was holding onto the ground and walked away, saying he would prove what he could do. In another part of the dungeon, a group of adventurers had formed a circle around 2 others, having a friendly sword fight with wooden weapons. Langa, one of them, apologized for drawing a crowd. Horace, the other fighter, said he was the one who allowed the others to watch, so she didn't need to worry. He then asked why she looked surprised. Langa pointed out that Horace was usually quiet and mysterious. Horace reminded her that the Demon King had a power called absolute male domination, and if the Demon King had noticed him, things could have gone badly. Around that time, Giador arrived and joined the crowd. Langa claimed she would be the first to attack, and Horace just nodded silently. Everyone watched as Langa took a step forward to begin the fight, but suddenly Giador stood between them. He angrily asked if Horace was the hero's master. He couldn't believe that someone like Horace didn't even have the stance of a proper adventurer. Giador believed that if someone like Horace was her master, Langa didn't deserve the title of hero. Langa told Horace not to react to Giador and just continue with the duel. Other adventurers also told Giador to leave them alone. They even threw some of their loot at him to get him to go away. They said they had come to watch the hero train. Giador was frustrated that these people were buying into the story of a commoner hero defeating the Demon King and saving the world. He called it ridiculous. Horace and Langa stopped for a moment when they noticed something from Giador. Giador proudly introduced himself as the eldest son of the Emod Count family and someone who had been given a holy sword by the Sinatica Church. He unsheathed his holy sword and swore he would expose their lies. However, the two ignored him and Langa attacked Horace. Horace blocked in time. As they continued to duel, Horace asked what was going on with Giador. Langa explained that Geodor was angry because a group of commoners defeated the Demon King before the nobles did. He was throwing a tantrum like a spoiled brat. Horace now understood why Geodor was acting the way he was. Frustrated, Geodor asked who they were calling a spoiled brat. Feeling mocked, he activated his holy sword and yelled that no amount of commoner training could defeat the Demon King. He claimed they had only gotten lucky and that the Demon King had just gone into hiding, and now they were lying about defeating him. Geodor swung his holy sword at Horace and told them to remember the power of his sword, Guard Might. Horace glared at him and told him to leave. The pressure from his glare sent Geodor flying into the dungeon walls. Geodor's followers quickly checked on him. Confused, Geodor asked what had just happened. Horace began explaining that mana always seeks balance. If you focus your mana into your eyes and glare at someone, the mana in the air reacts to the fear and instinctively moves away from you. This causes the air around the user to be pulled, building up pressure. Horace said he had simply focused that pressure on Geodor. He added that for someone like Geodor, neither a sword nor magic was needed, just a glare was enough. Geodor's followers helped him up and left the room. The others cheered for Horace, impressed by what they had seen from the hero's master. Langa remembered how the strength of one's aura increased over time. It was said that the color of the aura reflected the user's true nature. However, Horace's aura was completely transparent. Langa couldn't believe that her master had defeated a holy sword wielder, someone formally trained with just a simple glare. She couldn't help but say aloud how amazing her master was. Horace remembered how Tyrus once said his eyes were like cannon blasts, and honestly, she wasn't far off. Now that the annoying opponent was gone, the two could finally duel seriously. Langa called upon her aura and Horace did the same, but Horace's aura seemed to overpower hers easily. He asked what was wrong and said that if she couldn't even get close to him with her aura, then there was no point in her trying to get stronger under his training. Frustrated, Langa pushed herself forward. She attempted a stabbing move, but Horace easily stopped it by grabbing the tip of her wooden sword. He pointed out that her attack was light and reminded her of the letter he had sent earlier. In it, he explained that while the Demon King was gone, there were still many battles to fight. He said that if they still needed him to step in after the Demon King's defeat, then something was seriously wrong. Langa asked if Horace had gotten stronger. She said that even being 100 times stronger than before didn't quite explain it. Horace apologized for that. Langa backed off to a safe distance. Horace told her to come again since they had all the time in the world. Langa agreed, and seeing her motivated, Horace smiled. She took a deep breath, realizing how much stronger he was compared to her as always, but she swore that one day, she would stand beside him and go even further. Later at an inn, Count Emod called Geodor foolish and asked what he had been thinking. Geodor looked upset and said it was his father who told him that common people were spreading rumors about the Demon King's defeat and causing trouble. Even so, Count Emod couldn't believe Geodor had gone and confronted the hero so carelessly, especially when their family alone owed the Ruster report 20,000 gold coins. Geodor was shocked. He shouted that the amount was 100 times more than their family's yearly budget. The Count told him they should be focusing on paying off that debt. He explained that even though the Demon King was gone and they were getting 10,000 gold coins in aid money, the debt would still remain. That's when Geodor got an idea. He said they just needed to make the hero admit that they hadn't truly defeated the Demon King. If the world went back into a state of danger, nobles like them could ask for debt forgiveness again. Count Emod, angry, threw a bottle at him. He shouted that the World Council had already confirmed the Demon King was defeated. He said he had been trying to negotiate lower interest rates on their debt, but Geodor's actions had ruined that plan. Geodor tried to defend himself. He said their family owned a holy sword, and even the royal family supported them. But the Count reminded him they only got 200 gold coins a year. Even with a small 1% interest rate, they could barely keep up. On top of that, using the holy sword came with high fees charged by the Sinatica Church. He also said the church was deep in debt too. They owed a lot to the Ruster report and were now collecting money from all over the world to pay it back. Geodor was speechless. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. The Count went on, saying it wasn't wrong to say the whole world now depended on the Ruster report's gold. And yet his son had picked a fight with the hero, one of the most powerful people in that group. At that point, Geodor lost his temper. He shouted, grabbed his sword, and ran outside. Count Emod, now panicked, asked where he was going and told him to come back. Horace was walking through the forest on his way home when he suddenly felt like something wasn't right. He spoke to himself, saying that he should try going deeper into the dungeon next time. Just then, someone stepped out from the bushes and pointed a sword at him. The person told Horace not to move and demanded that he tell his student to cancel the debt that the house owed to Ruster report. Horace already knew who the person was. He commented that it was no surprise he had tried an ambush, especially since he couldn't beat him in a fair fight. Horace even said he respected the effort. He remembered the man's name, Geodor. Geodor was surprised that Horace recognized him. Horace explained that the presence of the holy sword gave it away. Hearing that, Geodor took off his disguise and said he would get straight to the point. He swung his sword and cut the bag Horace was carrying. Rare stones fell to the ground. Geodor shouted that he wasn't just making a threat, he was giving an order. He revealed that he was the son of a count from the biggest kingdom in the world. He said Horace only had to say the word, and the girls would burn the contract on the spot. Geodor then ordered Horace to make them do it. But Horace began to explain how the girls got the money they had lent. He told him they earned that money during their journey to defeat the Demon King. They had fought strong monsters and didn't rely on anyone else. Erasing that debt would mean throwing away all the hard work they had done. Geodor shouted that none of that mattered. He said commoners had to obey nobles. He also claimed that the hero community had started as just an adventurer guild, and if adventurers died on the job, they didn't have to pay back what they owed. He argued that the real problem wasn't him, it was the survivors. Horace told him to stop, but Geodor shouted back that he wouldn't. He said he was the one giving orders now. Suddenly, he realized he couldn't move his body. He reminded Geodor again that the mana inside the dungeon always tried to stay balanced. He explained that the human body stored mana in a space different from the physical world. The holy sword made the body stronger by filling those parts with a lot of mana. He said that using fear to control someone was just like casting a paralysis spell. He said only people who could resist that fear and create their own pressure could use the sword and stand in front of him. He believed someone like Geodor was no match for a golem master like himself. Geodor told him to wait, noticing how Horace clenched his fist. Horace asked if Geodor hadn't learned his lesson from before and remembered how Geodor didn't like getting hurt. He said that for people who refused to listen, the only solution was a punch. Geodor begged him to stop, but Horace was already too excited to start. He threw a punch and told Geodor to take it like a man. Without holding back, Horace punched Geodor in the face and sent him flying like a ragdoll. Suddenly, Langa came out of the mansion after she felt the presence of a holy sword. She saw the sword land and stab into the ground right in front of Horace. When she noticed someone sticking their twitching legs from the bushes, she realized that her master had just used the iron fist of justice. Horace then said she was right about their master being okay. Horace was glad for the changes he had made to his body. Getting punched by him now felt like getting hit by a golem. He said some people don't learn unless they get beaten up, so they stop making the same mistakes. Langa guessed that Geodor had said a lot to Horace, but Horace told her not to worry about it. He was used to getting hundreds of requests and complaints every day when he lived in the royal capital. He explained that if he got upset over every small thing someone said, he would have lost his mind. Langa was surprised to hear that. Horace reminded her that the Diamante Kingdom used to give city jobs only to nobles. That's why regular citizens didn't usually complain. But after the Demon King emergency law, commoners started getting those jobs. Now people began sharing their problems and requests more often. Langa realized it had turned into a commoners helping commoners kind of system. This made it easier for people to speak up. Horace remembered how citizens would say that their taxes paid the officials' salaries, so the officials had to listen. He could understand that thinking. But when serious problems came up, there were always people who jumped to wild conclusions. They would shout fake logic like it was the truth. If he could have, Horace said he would have beaten them up back then. Langa understood that their master had gone through a lot during those times. Suddenly, Horace saw some visitors. A woman came with her children and brought a basket of fruits. She greeted them and offered the girls some of the fruits. One of the girls said she had baked some potatoes and gave them to Horace. Horace thanked them. Langa noticed that they kept getting a lot of fruits and sweets even though they already had plenty. Horace said these were thank you gifts. She reminded Langa about the power unit maintenance that happened the other day. Horace explained that the city's magic power supply had become more efficient. Because of that, the magic tools that powered the city now needed only 20 to 30% of the magic stones they used before. The palace had officially announced that tax rates would go down a lot because of this improvement. That was why the hero's mansion kept receiving gifts. Langa was worried that maybe the government had just been keeping too much money before and was now only pretending to lower it. But Horace told her that the Dragonstone Kingdom's government was open about how it spent its money. Anyone who wanted to could check and see for themselves. As the visitors were leaving, one of the kids saw Geodor hiding in the bushes. Langa felt uneasy that someone so young saw something that might have involved violence. Still, she noticed that her master seemed calmer than before. Horace thought about this too and was surprised at how much Geodor had changed since he became a citizen of another country. He realized that helping Dragonstone now matched up with Geodor's own goals. When their master walked back into the mansion, Langa said that their master should at least get a little thanks or recognition from others when he did something important. Horace thought this was because no matter how hard their master had worked before, he was never praised or thanked when he worked at the capital's castle. Langa then realized that their master didn't expect to be thanked at all. Horace said that if their master had become too well known, the Demon King would have noticed him. It was hard to talk about, but the girls knew they couldn't really speak about their master's situation. They understood it was something beyond them. At the same time, in the Office of Official Duties in the Diamante Kingdom, King Barziel looked through the records. He had just found out that Horace had been doing too much for the kingdom. In fact, Horace had become the main support behind the biggest nation in the world. Suddenly, a soldier rushed into the office and reported that the magic tools set up in the capital had stopped working. He asked what to do. Barziel understood the report, but he couldn't ask why the soldier didn't even knock before entering. Right after that, another soldier came in and said the food transport cart's axle had broken, and there were no spare parts to fix it. Barziel knew this was a clear sign that his country was falling apart. The only mana supply station still working hadn't been taken care of since Horace, the one who always handled maintenance, disappeared. Everything was becoming a mess. What made things worse was that most of the noble alchemists cared more about talking and convincing others than actually fixing things. Because of that, the country couldn't move forward or improve. Barziel remembered that Horace, who was a Golem master, always carried a dimensional storage tool. But now there were no spare parts or instruction manuals left behind. There were barely any skilled people left who could do the job right. Barziel finally realized that all the success his nation had before was thanks to Horace. Another soldier came in and said that people were close to rioting because none of the problems were being solved. Barziel thought that magic tools usually worked the same no matter who used them. But golems were different. Their power depended on who controlled them. He told the soldier to let the common people solve their own problems. The soldier hesitated and said they didn't have enough people. Barziel, now angry, told them to work 10 times harder, like golems. His angry voice made the soldier run out. As Barziel worked through the piles of documents, he let out a sigh. He still had to make sure food supplies kept coming, even if they were delayed. If the food stopped, the nation might lose its title as the largest in the world. Suddenly, another emergency message arrived. Barziel angrily asked what was going on. The servant explained that Geodor, the eldest son of the Emod noble house, had gone to confront the hero's mentor. It was reported that Geodor had tried to make the mentor convince the hero to cancel the Emod family's debt. Instead of agreeing, the mentor knocked Geodor out with a single punch. The king was shocked that someone would be foolish enough to start a fight with the hero's mentor. Barziel then asked if the hero had responded. The servant said there were no demands from the hero for now. The servant continued his report, saying that House A owed the hero 20,000 gold coins. Even if they only had to pay 1% in interest, that would still be 200 gold coins, equal to their entire yearly budget. Barziel remembered that the Emodadi's land didn't have any strong businesses. He had only given them a noble title because they had once owned the Holy Sword, if he remembered correctly. If the family had used their money to build better roads or services, their situation might have improved. Barziel then ordered the servant to prepare the 20,000 gold coins from the national treasury to pay off the debt. But in return, he wanted all of the Emodadi family's land and property to be taken by the royal court. He also decided to send them to live at the edge of the kingdom. The servant, surprised, asked if Barziel was serious. Barziel remembered something important from the past. 12 years ago, during the Labyrinth flood near the eastern border of the Diamante Kingdom, everyone had forced Emodade into a dangerous mission. Because of Emodade's actions, Barziel avoided a major mistake and became the crown prince. Barziel believed this decision would settle the past. The servant accepted the order and left. Barziel thought that no one else should try to test their luck again. After some time, he received the report that the 2,000 gold coins safely reached the hero community. But looking at the actual receipt makes Barziel's stomach hurt. At that time, more bad news arrived. Barziel asked what the problem was this time. He was angry and demanded to know what the others were doing, calling them fools. He read a report saying that sons of noble families had caused trouble in the hero communities and related groups. It also said that violence had broken out. Barziel shouted, asking if those fools were trying to ruin the country. The servant said they had gotten statements from the people involved. Barziel asked what they said. The servant explained that the son of Count Emodade had even pulled out the holy sword against the hero's mentor. But the problem was considered over after Geodor was punched. Then, with the debt repaid and the A family sent to live at the border, the matter was closed. Barziel then learned that debt collectors had tricked the sons of noble families into causing problems. These sons messed with the hero communities, so the king would feel forced to step in, pay their debts, and say sorry to fix everything. Because of this, more people began to support the idea of letting a few noble families go bankrupt to solve the debt crisis. Barziel was furious. He felt like everyone was laughing at him. He demanded an investigation to find out why all this was happening. The servant hesitated, then said they had already looked into it. Barziel grabbed him and ordered him to say everything. The servant explained that after Barziel had signed an order to prepare 20,000 gold coins, a study group had been formed, led by the dukes. Barziel couldn't believe how foolish they were. He said they only looked at what was on the surface and didn't understand the bigger picture. He pointed out that the hero's mentor had handled the issue with the A family gently. Barziel also mentioned he owed the Emodatis a favor, so it had been a special case. Then he asked the servant how much debt they were facing this time. The servant looked away and said the amount was a shocking 10 billion gold coins. Barziel sat down in disbelief. Their yearly national budget was only 10 million gold coins. He couldn't believe that anyone thought they could pay back 100 times that amount overnight. Now that the situation had become so serious, Barziel said the royal family would have to pay, and even bow their heads just to fix the mess. But he shouted angrily, asking where they were supposed to find that kind of money. He couldn't help but curse out loud. Meanwhile, Langa found out about the recent attacks happening at the same time on hero communities and their related facilities. She thought the attackers might have lost their minds. Horace said she figured something like this would happen when she heard that the Diamante Kingdom had paid 20,000 gold coins. She believed that smart people without imagination could still do strange things. But Langa wasn't even sure if they were really smart. Horace called them clever, but said they could only see things in a limited way. Langa agreed and started thinking about how they should deal with the problem. News about the Diamante Kingdom's nobles being unfriendly to the hero community had spread to other countries. Langa saw that the situation was getting worse. She wondered how much debt was connected to these attacks. Horace said the damage already cost around 10 billion gold coins, and there was no way the king could afford to pay it. Langa then asked herself how they could make the kingdom pay. Horace suggested they should take something valuable from them instead. Langa agreed right away. She knew their master would like to have some special metals for his golem. Then Langa got an idea. She suggested taking the antenna from the capital of the Diamante Kingdom. Horace was confused and asked if there was really an antenna there. Langa explained that there was. She said their master's golem could only be controlled within a 3-meter range, but with that antenna, Horace could control the whole capital by himself. Their master had not built a large golem yet, even though making the antenna was simple. Horace then realized the problem. It wasn't easy to build the antenna because of the materials and the skill it needed. Both of them smiled as they finally decided what they should take from the Diamante Kingdom. The hero community's request eventually reached King Barziel. He said it could be a major turning point for their kingdom. At that moment, a secretary, who looked a bit feminine, told the king honestly that he didn't want to follow the hero community's order. Barziel guessed that Razor had also read the letter and could understand why. Razor said he did. He explained that the kingdom would get big help with its debt if they gave up the antenna. Barziel agreed. Even if they used their whole yearly budget, it wouldn't be enough to pay off the debt. Right now, they could only pay a small portion of the interest. He asked Razor why they shouldn't take the deal. Razor brought up something important. The hero's master had given up his long-range power so he could have better control over his golems. Barziel told him to keep going. Razor warned that if they gave away the antenna now and the hero's master ever returned to Diamante, things wouldn't be the same. Barziel agreed. He knew Razor had also read the 3 great records of super ancient history, and Razor confirmed it. Barziel realized that Horace, the hero's master, probably used the antenna as a relay to make up for his short range. That seemed like the most logical answer. Razor said that was likely the reason why Horace had been in their country in the first place. It was because of the antenna. Barziel agreed completely. He even admitted that a part of him had hoped they could invite Horace back to the castle someday. Razor understood since he had read the records showing Horace had worked in the royal castle for many years. Barziel then assumed that the other nobles had also read the letter. He asked Razor what they thought. Razor stayed quiet for a moment, then said the antenna wasn't being used anywhere in the country right now. Barziel told him to just say what the nobles had said. Razor told him their exact words. The nobles had mocked the common people, calling them fools for wanting something useless. They said they didn't mind giving up the antenna if it meant keeping the country safe. Barziel was shocked at how little imagination his people had. He reminded himself that a ruler should never believe something without seeing proof. That's why rulers needed to gather information, and they must also surround themselves with people who can give accurate reports. Only now did Barziel truly understand what his father used to say, words he had once thought were just wishful thinking. Razor asked what was going on. Barziel then decided to agree with the hero's demand. He told Razor to get ready to hand over the antenna. He had already made up his mind. He would stop hoping that the hero, Horace, would stay in their country. That decision was final. But he had no plans to protect the nobles or keep their so-called peace. He also ordered Razor to make a full list of proper prisons in the country, because he planned to lock up all the people he called fools. Razor followed the order, but in his mind he remembered how just a few days ago, The king liked being surrounded by people who only said nice things to him, even if those people weren't very smart. Still, Razor thought that Barziel might actually be someone who could get things done if he really tried. Before Razor could leave, Barziel stopped him, which made Razor feel uneasy. The king then asked, in a serious tone, if Horace was angry because they didn't truly value what he had done. Razor didn't think that was the case. Based on how Horace seemed happy after punching a noble who used a holy sword, Razor believed Horace wasn't the kind of person who cared about being praised. He also said Horace might not even have a reason to care about them at all. Barziel thought that made sense. Then Razor asked directly if the king had any regrets. Barziel flinched and couldn't find the right words to answer. Razor went on to share that he had seen regular people complain before, and honestly it was only a matter of time before someone got tired of how things were. Barziel asked what he meant. Razor told him simply to apologize and promise to keep a respectful distance as a ruler. That way at least their relationship with Horace wouldn't get worse. Barziel finally understood. They had to let go of Horace. He realized that from the start he didn't even know how to keep someone like Horace in the kingdom. Razor found it funny that the king, who looked calm earlier, suddenly seemed like someone worried about love. Just then, Barziel thought about giving Horace a bonus along with the antenna. Razor asked what he meant, but Barziel said it was nothing and told him to leave. After Razor left, Barziel admitted to himself that he had failed to handle someone like Horace properly. Now he was just trying to fix things and put them back in order. Even if Horace said he was done with the Diamante Kingdom, they couldn't argue. But if this helped the country grow, maybe the nation could repay everything someday. And now it all depended on the extra gift he was thinking about giving. Meanwhile, Horace went deeper into the dungeon. As he walked, he suddenly felt the presence of a monster. Without looking, he quickly moved to the side to dodge an attack. He realized a bird-like monster made of metal was attacking him. He tried to use his aura to attack the monster, but it didn't work. The aura just bounced off. Horace understood he couldn't rely on his aura here, but he expected that in this unknown part of the dungeon. Since the birds were made of metal, they could only fly using magic, which made it easier for Horace to overpower them with magic. But he decided to try something else. He used his aura to grab control of the metal bird. Then, he made it crash into nearby stalactites like a pickaxe. Horace realized his aura wasn't completely useless. He pulled out a bead from his vest and infused it with magic. The bead turned into a gun-shaped golem. Horace decided to try it out and aimed it at the flying bird monster. He pulled the trigger. The monster tried to dodge, but the shot pierced through it. More shots followed until the monster disappeared like mist. Disappointed, Horace thought the monster was weaker than he expected. He returned the gun-shaped golem into a bead and collected the monster's drops with his magic bag. After gathering everything, Horace decided to head back home. Later at the mansion, Horace sorted his spoils into two piles. Things he wanted to keep and things he didn't need. He was in the warehouse when Langa found him. Tiras said that their master had been doing this ever since he returned from the dungeon, even though he should be resting. Langa asked what he was doing. Horace explained that he was sorting things into what he needed and what he didn't. Tiras noticed the ores looked the same, but Horace explained that if someone's appraisal skill was good enough, they could tell the difference in quality even if the ores looked identical. Tiras was shocked, realizing that the ores she gathered might have junk mixed in. Horace reassured her, saying that at her level he could adjust the quality with alchemy. He also told her that deeper in the dungeon, there were rare ores in the middle layers. These ores were useful for enhancing others from the deeper layers, but the drop rates were low, and it wasn't worth the trouble for just anyone. Langa then asked if the ores Horace gathered this time were beyond his ability to refine with alchemy. Horace reminded them that a golem master was someone who worked with earth magic, alchemy, and magic tools. So he didn't specialize in alchemy that dealt with metal. He stood up, took a sip of coffee, and said he had finished sorting everything. He wanted to leave the rest to Tiras and the others. Suddenly, Langa remembered why she had been looking for Horace. She asked if he wanted the extra metal. When Horace heard that, he realized the Diamante Kingdom had finally decided to send the antenna. Langa confirmed it. They were sending it in exchange for lowering their debt. The extra metal was part of the deal and had been sent first. Horace said he didn't want to take care of the kingdom anymore. But Langa told him that there was no ordinary item that could increase the control range of someone like him. She thought that if his range got bigger, he could make even better golems. Horace agreed with her. He remembered how useful the antenna had been before. The girls laughed at his comment. Still, Langa was curious why the kingdom wasn't using the antenna themselves in their capital. Horace explained that for the antenna to work well, the magic power running through it had to match the antenna's requirements. But the kingdom's magic didn't meet those standards. Since they didn't know exactly what the antenna needed, they couldn't create the right kind of magic. Tiras asked if the antenna was made by the kingdom. Horace said he heard it was actually created by Zetsia Oration, a legendary maker of very old and powerful magic tools. Somehow, the kingdom had gotten their hands on it. Langa said it was a waste for the kingdom to have something they couldn't use. Horace agreed, saying they were treating the extra item like it was a huge deal. Langa added that it had been kept in the castle's underground vault. Then, Horace suddenly started to panic. He asked if that kind of room really existed in the castle. While he was worrying, the girls were more excited to open the package. After they opened the box, Langa asked Horace what he thought. Horace said the kingdom had sent something without even knowing what it really was. Horace began to worry that it might be something their master didn't need, but Horace said it was the opposite. It was something that could help his research move forward by 10 years. The girls were even more excited than Horace, who quietly covered his smile with his hand. Horace said it was amazing how people didn't realize the value of what they had. He admitted that getting this item on his own would have taken a lot of luck. He explained that he hadn't used it before because it would have forced him down a path in his research he wasn't ready for. He guessed that King Barzal had sent it without knowing its true value. But it turned out to be the perfect gift. Langa asked if it was really that special. Horace said that even if the Demon King had already been defeated, and people praised his work, and even if they asked him to stay at the castle with the hero, giving him a lab and rewards, he still would have kept bowing his head again and again in thanks to the king, just for this one item. When Horace heard what was said, she wondered if their master was thinking about returning to work at the castle. But Horace said there was no way. His opinion about the kingdom's people hadn't changed. If he worked in the castle, he wouldn't be able to reach the Grand Ore Vein. Either way, he would have left the castle eventually. Then Langa asked if Horace planned to cancel all of Diamante Kingdom's debt. Horace said yes, since they had given him such a valuable gift. With the debt gone, Horace could only imagine the foolish nobles acting wild and full of themselves. But if they ever forgot what it meant to carry the title of hero, Langa said she would make sure they remembered. Horace soon realized that the girls were planning to spread the news about the debt being gone just to stir things up. They wanted to lure the nobles into acting carelessly so they could be used as an example later. When Langa asked if that would be a problem, she added that she had learned this trick from her master. Horace couldn't argue with that. After all this, King Barzal got official word that the kingdom's debt had been completely cleared. He was shocked, and then he cried. Not long after, a man began camping outside the hero's mansion. He watched the women heroes going in and out of the building. People said these heroes had finished cleaning up the last of the trouble after the Demon King was defeated. Then, some curious kids asked what the man was doing and looked through the other side of his telescope. Guards quickly told the kids not to touch it. The man, still watching the hero's mansion, said the hero community was exactly how the rumors described it. He said he liked what he saw, then, with a creepy look, he said he wanted to make all the women in the hero community his mistresses. He kissed the telescope with his big lips, acting in a disturbing way. That is the end of the recap at Chapter 6. Please read the pinned comment about the next part.